The world we live in today is filled with inequality. The poor is extremely poor, whereas the rich is very rich. According to estimates in 2013, 10.7% of the world's population lives on less than $1.90 a day. That means that 767 million people live on less than $1.90. Most of our pocket money is much greater than that amount. Half of these poor people live in the sub-Saharan Africa, and the vast majority lives in rural areas with poor education. On the other hand, the richest 1% of the world has wealth equal to that of the other 99%. The dystopian world we live in is due to the result of disparity, caused by the different economic approaches that countries use. The result of such economic systems employed by countries breeds inequality because it allows the rich to get richer, whereas the poor are being exploited and becoming even poorer. So, communism or capitalism? Which system is responsible for the world poverty issue? Communism is a system of social organization in which all property is owned by the government and each person contributes and receives according to their ability and needs. Countries that are communist are China, Russia, and North Korea. They believe that true democracy is where each person in the community has the same opportunities and the same resources, regardless of background. So everyone has an equal chance to live a good life. On the other hand, capitalism is an economic system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit, rather than by the state. Countries like Singapore, the United States, Canada, and Australia are capitalistic countries. In fact, Singapore is considered the role model for a free trade capitalist country. Capitalism gives people the chance to earn what they deserve. People who work hard get rich, and companies' earnings are theirs to keep. So people earn what they work for. However, the problem with these two conflicting systems is that it is not true equality because there are still people in the world who are very poor. In communism, people always get the same pay, wages, living conditions, and land no matter how hard they work. People are not motivated to work, resulting in poverty for the entire country. In capitalism, not everyone receives the same opportunity. Those who are not given a chance will always remain poor. So how does communism result in poverty? According to historian Richard Pipes, Marxism, the theoretical foundation of communism, carried within it the seeds of its own destruction. Land, which is a major source of wealth for the people in communist states, were taken away from them and put into the hands of the state. Other commodities such as livestock and capital were also seized from the people, resulting in a disastrous economy, because by nationalizing productive assets and placing them into the management of officials who possess neither the competence nor the motivation to oversee them efficiently, causes the productivity to decline. Moreover, it causes the people at large to view themselves as wards of the state, rather than self-sufficient individuals. Hence, they depend on the government to oversee every aspect of their well-being. Communism rewards equally the worker and the slacker, killing the incentives to work hard. That is why communist regimes traditionally end up in failure and poverty. Examples of such countries that are struggling with poverty due to communism are China, North Korea, Vietnam, Cuba, and Laos. And how does capitalism result in poverty? Indisputably, capitalism has done more to advance certain aspects of humanity than other economic systems. However, something is happening. As capitalism continues to grow, its limitations are becoming much more apparent. Its inherent flaws are calling economists and professionals for a return to ethical capitalism. The problem with capitalism is greed. The income gap between working classes of a capitalistic country is ever widening, and the capital difference between the rich and poor countries is drastically increasing. This is because profit is privatized, while loss is socialized, allowing few to benefit from wealth, while the incomes of the majority is stagnating or even collapsing. Due to the competitive style of capitalism, it has created a survival of the fittest system where the poor will forever remain poor because they lack opportunities to succeed. Poor African, South American, and Asian countries suffer from capitalism because they are poor and thus exploited by rich countries. Richer countries and companies have greater power due to their high initial capital, hence they exploit the poor countries for their own wealth, giving the poor countries no chance to develop or gain wealth. Such exploitations are child labor, slavery, and cheap labor. So which economic system starves more, communism or capitalism? Adding up all the starvation under the orthodox communism from 1925 to 1990, over the 65-year period, that is around 21.5 million deaths. However, from 1986 to 2010, a period of only 24 years, capitalism has starved 40 million a year. That is 336 million in 24 years. In the 20th century, capitalism was starving 47 times as many people as communism was. We have always seen communism as a main problem for world poverty, but we have not considered that capitalism was such a huge factor for poverty and starvation, not in the capitalistic countries but rather in the poorer countries being exploited. This is a major problem because Singapore, a role model for a free capitalistic country, is also responsible for such a horrible plight. In Singapore, there is a widening income gap between the working classes. The rich are getting richer, whereas the less wealthy is stagnating in income, or even getting poorer. Sometimes our purchasing habits might result in poverty in other countries without us knowing. We always demand for cheaper goods and cheaper food, without realizing that reducing the pricing of food will result in the laborers in Africa or China getting a lower pay. An example is the cocoa farmers problem. West African farmers are no longer replacing their old cocoa farmers because of the extremely low pay. Farmers in Ghana earn as much as 84 cents a day, and Ivorian farmers 50 cents. Farming is not providing the people a sustainable income. Yet in Singapore, we complain when the price of chocolate bars increased by 30 cents. All of us in some way result in poverty. But how can we solve this global issue of poverty? Firstly, we can give to charity. We can give money to the poor to provide them with education, or we can raise awareness about the global poverty issue. Secondly, we must not waste food, but rather give stuff that we don't want anymore to the poor, like toys, clothes, and other essentials. Together, we Singaporeans can play our part in reducing the gap between the rich and the people who are living in poverty. We can stop poverty